Before I get into what I'm actually going to talk about, I'd like to mention the lack of time I have dedicated to these sorts of things. I like to do more of these editorial videos and comparisons, but they obviously take a bit more time than there really is given. So sorry if this seems a bit lackluster. I'm trying to do my best, but otherwise, enjoy the company. Titanfall 2 is one of the best first-person shooters I've played in quite some time, embracing the classic model for mentality and placing it in emphasis, gameplay and amount of possibilities versus the 20 million different attachments. There's many different ways to play the game, there's many different ways to experience the game, and that's part of the beauty. We're going to be tearing apart Titanfall 2 through this video, and I'm going to explain to you why it's one of the most liked games of this fourth quarter of 2016, why it's one of the most underrated games of 2016, and why you should most likely consider buying it, because not only does the player base need to increase, but the chances of Titanfall 3 being a thing is not going to be very happy. So now, since Titanfall 2 is a first-person shooter, as is a lot of games these days, there's specific attributes to the genre I like to apply to this game when I'm talking about reviewing and comparing it to other games as well. These are all very similar attributes that the games hold general senses, not specifically in particular and stuff. While this game isn't perfect, there are very much good things from this game, but there are also some smaller, minor complaints, basically. Not as much bad as there is good. Let's start with the easiest to pick at, but probably the longest to talk about as well. The campaign. Let's first mention that in Titanfall 1, which is the previous game, of course, there wasn't exactly a campaign in the traditional sense. Most of the development was focused primarily on the multiplayer, as it is with most shooters. However, they did need some campaign of sorts to ground the battles of its storyline and bring context to the world and mechanics. It was done fairly poorly, albeit it was ambitious, but it wasn't mostly tacked on experience rather than being what the game was built around and built for throughout its development. And most people's complaints for that section of the game did arise for the development of the second game, since it's pretty easy to tell that this campaign is certainly one of the greats as far as first-person shooters go. And I'll get into why here in a second. Development was focused on the multiplayer aspect and how to create interesting dynamics between players within the battlefield, and not the story and the context. So in the new one, there's a completely fleshed out story, and it's very well put together as well. For starters, it's almost clear on what you're supposed to be doing. There's just enough grounded plot from the get-go to keep players intrigued, while also adding to the mystery and giving a purpose to see what's going to happen in the story. The pacing is spot on, as every level brings something new to the table for gameplay and plot, so there's no real time to be plainly bored on what's going on. That isn't to say there's downtime with jumping puzzles and other simple stuff like that to fill in the gaps between engagements. The campaign also introduces you to all the different weapons and loadouts that are possible within the game without being prevented by other players running around a large map. However, it might seem short for some people. There's a lot of reward for playing the campaign and how well written the whole adventure is. With all the movement systems being utilized to their fullest potential, it's hard to play other story modes for shooters without feeling left out after this game. Going back to the very basic and obtuse action movie formats, and the most recent examples would be a challenge. I can't personally say how it holds up to games within the past year, but there's no simple actor being placed in the game for revenue sales, because look at this guy who was in 10 things you saw before and has been placed digitally in a video game. While it's interesting to see how much 3D modeling technology has come, this isn't something to focus on and should be shown. There's more to a story mode than simply being fun and cool. It has to have more deeper meaning and take advantage of anything it has to grasp the attention of the player, while also presenting challenges that isn't just gunning down 5 people. Titanfall 2 certainly sets the standards on how an FPS game's campaign should be like for the coming years, and alone is worth the $60 in my opinion for that fact alone. Other nitpicks that are actually praises is the influence from science fiction ideology. Primarily Isaac Asimov, who is known for his best work on robotic science fiction stories. Now, interactions between robots and humans are conceived after placing down 3 simple rules, which are really similar to those in the Titanfall 2 campaign, by the way. It's an interesting concept I didn't see coming from this sort of game. It's something you'd see more so in RPGs and the like. You're given the explanation that you and your Titan, that is, you the player and your Titan as BT, have to have a strong relationship in order to function well under combat. The given relationship was told to you throughout the first half of the game, and you ask why they keep bringing it up all the time. I mean, it's not in your face. It's not like it's going to be, this is what's going to happen sort of style, but it's subtly mentioned throughout the game. So most of the time I just shrugged it off through the most of the playthrough. What starts as you being forcibly dragged alongside for the road with this titan you've never been with before turns into a bromance as you go through the game and actually bond with this other character. I mean, the main character is mainly a blank slate to place your interactions on, which is nothing new. The player's character and BT together, it adds an immersive feeling that most shooters try to scrape together on their own. Also good to note is the main character actually starts off as just some regular soldier. He's a nobody. You're playing as a nobody from the very beginning. If you've played the multiplayer before or Titanfall 1 before, you're gonna know that these are one of the thousands of people that you're able to kill on the battlefield every match. And what slowly transitions from being a regular guy turns into being a pilot was certainly cost heavy, and I'm not going to mention anything else. This no longer becomes scripted challenges along a linear story mode. It becomes a series of events that unfold due to precarious circumstances that you were thrown into out of your control. Immersion within the story, the connection with the companion that's along for the ride, it's all wrapped up in one neat package that expresses a lot of philosophical science fiction beauty so many games try to achieve.